Good morning, Warzone kids. Warzone kids is my term for those of us that grew up in a world of some type of chronic harm, abuse, and neglect. I'm a childhood sex abuse survivor. I live as an adult with borderline personality disorder. I'm a recovering addict and bulimic. And my channel is called A Trail to the Western Lands. That's my metaphor for getting through life. And I'm talking about different hurdles and challenges that we face. And the one I'm talking about now is the Grail Forest. That's when the knights in search of the Holy Grail set off in search of the Holy Grail, and they went into the forest. And the forest became dark, and the path ran out, and they split up. And each one of those knights had to find their own way on the path, and they each went into the forest where it was darkest and where there was no path. Just like in life, each of us has to make our own path. We have to discover our path by making it, and we make our path by discovering it. So that's what I'm talking about, and that's why I was thinking about the metric system. Now, this may not seem like it's directly related to healing, but it is. Not because there are metric units that quantify healing, there ain't. But I'm an American, and I'm not that self-loathing about it. I love being an American. I love the United States of America in all of its ridiculousness and contradictions and folly. That is my home. And we use the imperial system because that's what they use in England. We come from my specific culture, and the American culture comes from England. They use the imperial system there. We use miles and things like that. And if you're a scientist, there's a lot to roll your nose up about it. It ain't all divisible by 10. It ain't that useful for science, blah, blah, blah. That's great. If you're a scientist, use a metric system. I'm a human being, so I use the imperial system because the units in the imperial system are based around human beings. We got things like a pinch, a dash. We measure small things in terms of grain, grains of corn, grains of wheat. I'm going to give you this one thing about it right now. There's a unit of measure in the imperial system called a league. A league. And if you look it up, it'll say a league is 3 miles. That might be the definition of a league according to a dictionary. But that's an incomplete definition. Here's the real definition of a league. A league is the distance you can walk in 3 hours. No, that ain't right. I've lied. A league is the distance you can walk in an hour. You can go look it up and correct me, but let's run with that. A league is the distance you can walk in 3 hours. And I'm a buffoon. A league is the distance you can walk in an hour. That's why if you look it up in a dictionary, it'll say a league is the distance that you can, a league is 3 miles. Because on flat, easy terrain, you're taking it easy, you can walk 3 miles in an hour, something like that. It was cross country and there's no path, and you're just walking across the ground. Let's say you can walk 3 miles in an hour. That's why the dictionary will say a league is 3 miles. But the real definition of a league is how far you can walk in an hour. That is a human measurement, Pilgrim. And I will say that's the best unit to walk on the Trail to the Western Lands. We measure it in terms of leagues. A league is however far you can make it down the trail in an hour. However far you did, you made it a league. Right? If you're on a section of the trail where the walking's easy, the moonlight miles, where you're walking under a clear sky and a full moon and you can see a long way, even though it's a dead of night, you got a full moon, so you got a nice, gentle, silvery light. You know how far you can walk in an hour? A league. If you're walking across the scree slopes and the ground's giving out from underneath you, you know how far you can walk in an hour, Pilgrim? A league. However far you walked, it's a league. How about that? That's a human measurement. And we are human beings. I am a human being with a soul. And I'm a pilgrim on the trail to the Western Lands, a place of peace and wholeness and learning to become who I am. You know how far I can walk in an hour on the trail? A league. When you're in the Grail Forest and the path is dark and you can't see anything in front of you, and you are discovering your path as you make it, and you are making your path as you discover it. You know how far you can walk in the Grail Woods in an hour? A league. If you measure it in terms of feet and inches, might be 100 feet, might be 10 feet. But you can walk a league. That's what you can walk in an hour on the path, on the trail to the Western Lands, Pilgrim. In your life, when you put one foot in front of the other and you take some steps on the trail to the Western Lands, you can walk 1 league every hour. You can't get it wrong. You can't walk more than 1 league in an hour. What do you think about that? You can't. You can run as fast as Usain Bolt, and you can't walk more than 1 league in an hour. You can crawl like a sloth through the Grail Woods because you might be walking in some gnarly old woods in Vermont and you got spongy moss under you, and you got what looks like a log but it crumbles underneath your feet, and you got muck and mud, and you get half your boot stuck, and you spend 20 minutes getting that boot out. You know how far you're going to make it down that trail in an hour in the woods? A league. So on the trail to the Western Land, we use imperial measurements, and the one we use most is a league. Because right now, on my trail to my section of the path to the Western Lands today, I'm going to walk a few hours on it. If I walk 3 hours on my path, I'm going to make it 3 leagues. That might be 10 miles, might be 20 miles, might be 20 yards, might be 18 inches. But if I walk 3 hours, I'm going to cover 3 leagues, just like you are, Pilgrim. So let's both of us buckle down, and in the next hour, let's walk a league on our path. We're both going to make it. It's going to be a photo finish as to which one of us walked the farthest, because we're both going to walk exactly 1 league. So whatever your league is like, I send you peace. But I know that in the next hour, you're going to make it 1 league, just like me. So today's segment on the Trail to the Western Lands is brought to you by the League, the official unit of Pilgrims everywhere. It's a beautiful day on the trail, Pilgrim. Daylight's burning. Let's get a move on.